has asked me to say a few words. He didn't say what words. But he suggested that I would talk about him personally, and leave the fabulous Tom to talk about the reason why we're here, which is the fabulous book itself.
Yeah.
So, Remo, what can I say? I've known Remo for 20 years, actually. I've always liked Remo. Louder, does someone say? No, can you hear me at the back? Yeah, okay. I've always liked Remo. I've always admired Remo. Our kids went to the same school, Barty Public, and over the 2 decades, our professional lives have sort of overlapped on more than a couple of occasions in a very happy way. And actually, I got a confession. I think about Remo every single day. Every single day.
Not the very
And the reason I do is because my keys, since 2001, have been on a general thinking key ring. There you go. So I don't think of him because, he's that important. I think of him because every time I start the car. And I'm number 22. I don't know if that's good or that's bad, but anyway, I'm number 22 on some of his wild and wacky schemes. So there are many, many things I could say about Remo, but in my experience, people tend to crap on too long at these occasions. So I'm going to limit myself to saying 3 things about Remo. And the first thing I'd like to say about Remo is Melanie. It's a vote winner. No, so whenever I think about Remo, the truth is I think of them as a couple. It's a bit like a John and Yoko, a Michelle and Barack, a Harry and Meghan. And I think any celebration of Remo that didn't acknowledge the huge contribution of Melanie just wouldn't be right.
Yeah.
And I had to tell a story. There you go, round of applause. And I have to tell a story. I always laugh when I see one of Remo's copious social media posts, because there's usually a big picture of a smiling Remo holding up the latest clever thing that he's done. But if you peer very, very carefully in the background, there's Melanie unloading a truck. or digging a ditch, or mending a boat. So I think they are a fabulous team, a very impressive, lovable team. And teamwork leads me on to the second point I want to make about Remo. And that is, there's no I in team, but there is an I in weird. And let's be honest, Remo is all sorts of weird. I mean, come on, we're all friends here, right? He doesn't think like the rest of us. And he is very much his own man, which I suppose is convenient, because if you set up a lifelong brand that literally is only your first name in block capitals, you've got to be pretty comfortable with who you are. If I set up a company called Nigel, I don't reckon it would fly. But with Remo, it just seems to work, because you're lovable and lovely, and it speaks to your weird eccentricity, which is part of your charm. He is obsessed by design. He's obsessed by how things look. And on his own admission, he is a bit of a control freak. And I think that's all driven by an insatiable curiosity. So Remo is always asking questions out loud and in his head. And it reminds me of that Kipling poem, I keep 6 honest men serving men. They taught me all I knew. Their names are what, why, and when, and how, and where, and who. And you could accuse Remo for overthinking things, but I think his never. I think his incessant questions and curiosity is what leads to his really, really, really impressive, valuable body of work. And that leads to my third thing that I want to say about Remo. If you look at the breadth of his work and try and find a unifying theme, you could say that he's chosen to live a life of passion. Or you could say that he believes that good work is its own reward. Or you could say it's about stories. Everything that Remo does is about stories. But although I think all three of those things have lots of truth in them, I actually choose a different unifying theme. And humbly, I think it's more important. If you look at Remo's work, be it TED, or the General Store, or the General Thinking Network, or Bondi Observer, or this fabulous book, Memorandum, they all each on their own and collectively add to society. They all make life slightly more interesting, slightly more fun, slightly kinder. So what I want to say to you, mate, because you asked me to talk about you, is I think that Bondi and the world is slightly nicer because you are in it. And I want to thank you for your work. And I want all of you to congratulate Melanie and Remo for the weird, wonderful bloke that he is. The main act, Tom, mate, we're going to talk about this fabulous book that I recommend everyone buys hundreds of copies of. Tom.
Yeah, yes, I do too.
Thanks. I wasn't actually asked to talk tonight. I'm just going to comment in the microphone. Also, I'm not going to get up on this thing for obvious reasons. Everyone knows that I can get high without stepping on wood. So a couple of months ago, I was at TEDx Sydney and ran into Remo at the bar, obviously. And he came up to me excited and he said, "It's here, it's here." I said, "What's here?" And he said, "Memorandum, the book." And he gave it to me. I said, "Oh, okay." And I was intrigued by it. And the more that he explained what it was, because I was like, what is this? The more that he explained what it was, the less I knew what it was. But I'd be lying to say that my intrigue didn't sort of chart my confusion at that point. And so I got the book and I started reading it, and I realized that there were some parallels with my thinking in the book, which is that it was a slightly scattershot. I have fleeting interests in random factoids and things like that. I appreciate the art of storytelling to the extent where I think, I might be moved more by chapters of absinthe, right? I think you might appreciate, than maybe chopsticks. Until you realise that chopsticks is not actually the device, but the song. But then I also realised it was to be played on piano, which was quite But this book has the ability to make the mundane memorable. It has the ability to make the interesting fascinating, in a way. Like the chapter about the ampersand was one of my favourites, and it has factoids that will actually live in my brain rent-free for the rest of my life. But at the beginning I was kind of flicking back and forth between them, all of the different chapters, and I realised that I hadn't even read the welcome or the introduction. And so I flicked back to that, and Remo talks a lot about the iceberg that is at the apex of all of the work that he does. And the apex of this iceberg is things. And that really got me thinking that, underneath all of these things is like history and culture and stories and science and art. But at the top is always things. And then I realized to myself, well, this book is a thing. This could easily have been a diverse website or a podcast or a Substack or something like that. But I was holding it in my hook. It was a thing. And it got me thinking about things. They're conduits for our memories, for our experiences. They're the photos that we hang on our walls. They're the letters that we keep stuffed away in drawers, the books on our bookshelves that grow old through wear and tear, through reading and rereading. They're part of our society and culture, and their ideas kind of transcend their material selves. And it really spoke to me because I thought to myself, well, this is not just a collection of facts and ideas and things and products. This kind of speaks volumes about the author who wrote it. I encourage everyone tonight to get their book signed by Remo, because I don't think he's got much time left. I mean tonight. He's got a better plan. No, I can say that because he's actually younger than me. At heart. But it gives me great pleasure to announce to you the man whose steak is his sizzle, Mr. Remo Giuffre.
Okay. Oh, I'm going to stand up here. Oh, gee. It's only one page and it's kind of like big writing, but I
That's double-sided.
I may or may not refer to it. First of all, some thank yous. The tiny business that the Remo is these days, online Remo, the team, which is mostly Melanie loading the truck. Katie,
digging ditches.
Katie is here. Christy Vella, I'm not sure it's here. I mean, even Peter Cramer over there, who's made all of my Kickstarter videos. So there you go. And Enzo, photographer. The OG Remo extended family, many of representatives are here tonight. Hugh and Kat. Hugh is in that sepia photograph in the window. Karen, who worked with me for many years. Robin and Ian, who are like baked into the origin story of the store. Hilary Bell, who is here, I hope still, who was my favourite cafe worker in the ye olde days of Remo. And there's Dare over there, who founded Mambo at about the same time I started Remo, and we used to toil over bacon on toast at the Wet Bar in Bondi, talking about our respective domination dreams, I think, from memory. More recent advisors, Piers Grove, I'm not sure is here. Chris Zinn is standing right there. Amy Denmead, my doubt whisperer. Vince Frost, who helped me choose the red, but also advised me to have it hit twice by the printer, and which turned out to be a very good investment of that extra 13 cents a book. Thanks, Vince. Book helpers, Sienna Yvonne Frindle is here, who sub-edited and helped me with the style guide. All of my Kickstarters, it wouldn't have happened without all of those people who basically on the back of the vaporware that was my persuasive narrative, funded the print run. Kickstarters, foundation subscribers, evangelists, patrons, Damien and Joe standing here at the front, Andrew Stewart. Tonight, Julia and Paul at the cash register waiting to take your money. All the Alison, Finn, everyone at Ariel's been great. Kemenes, Filter, Nigel and Tom, wonderful. I expected nothing less, and I got more than what I expected. So, and family, beautiful Melanie, my partner in everything and co-creator of the most important thing that you design, which is your own life. My kids are not here, and that's mostly why we're shooting this on a couple of iPhones and Peter Cramer's camera. Lola's lived in the Netherlands for many years, and Roman is van lifing on the west coast of Australia and labouring and skinning kangaroos and surfing, as far as I can see. So, anyway, they're the thank yous. So, today's auspicious. On this day, and in fact, on this street 35 years ago, the doors to the Remo General Store opened for the very first time. 35 years. So, happy birthday to the brand and the idea that just won't go away. You do know, fun fact, I have gone broke with his brand 4 times.
It's so fun.
Yeah, lots of fun. Despite the 30-year plus delay, and due to the fact that, as Tom pointed out, or as Nigel pointed out, the brand and I share the same name, 3 or 4 times a week, relative strangers will tell me how remarkable the store was and what an impact it had on their life and how it touched so many people. It was indeed of its time, and using a word that I'm desperate for people to use in the context of the book, it was a phenomenon. And for me it begs that question, what makes something remarkable and what does it take to cut through all of the noise? I tell the Remorandom backstory in the introduction to the book. It involves a series of dots, connecting dots spanning 35 years really. And over that period of time I've been curating, so that's kind of a little bit of a golden thread, the curation. I've been curating things for the store, people for the General Thinking Network, ideas for the TEDx Sydney and so on. And I realise now, as Nigel pointed out, at the molecular level, underneath all of those things are stories. And so this revelation wasn't actually mine. New York designer Tibor Kalman, and I relate this in the introduction to the book, he was a mentor of mine and the founder of Colours magazine and other things. He was an admirer of the printed catalogues, and he said to me on more than one occasion, "Remo, when are you going to realise that your sizzle is your steak?" And by that he was suggesting that the narrative promoting the merchandise was a valuable product in and of itself. And so I guess the seed of the idea that Remo could be a media brand as well as or instead of being a things brand was planted. There were other, revelations that came subsequent to that, but like many tasty things, this idea has been, a long time in the marination. So with everyone else zagging to digital, optimizing Remorandom for print is a big zig. I was going to say big zag, but that sounded a bit too much like big dag. Another friend of mine in New York, Kim Hastrider, is the founder of Paper magazine. When I shared this idea with her, and as advice born of her experience, she quoted Glennon Doyle, the author of Untamed, and told me something I think I already knew. She said, "Don't explain the thing, just do the thing, and then they'll be able to see the thing, making explaining anything unnecessary." So Remorandom is me just doing the thing. In the same way, actually, that the original Remo store was me just doing a thing that on the face of it doesn't sound all that remarkable. Opening a gift shop in Darlinghurst. And the punt here, and it is a punt, is that Remorandom is just another book, is to the same extent that Remo was just another store. And indeed, there are a lot of parallels between the original idea for the store and this new idea for the book series, and some of them are personal. When I opened the store in 1988, famously confusing my mother, "Darling, you've got 3 degrees and you're opening a shop. Please help me understand." It was more about creating a career and a life of passion for myself away from the corporate mainstream than it was about me meeting any great untapped need or creating something culturally significant. Similarly, the original driver for Remorandom was a personal desire to move my work life onto a place where it was less about managing budgets, events and people, but I love you still, TEDx Sydney, and more about writing and designing and creating as an artist. My happiest place is the place where I'm in that dance, toing and froing over a shared InDesign document with Ivy, my designer of 35 years, tweaking the words and images for maximum appeal and impact. Getting close to the end. For Remorandom, I'm inspired by printed things that have historically been cherished and collected and not discarded. Cole's Funny Picture Books, National Geographic magazines, Shots Miscellany, Sears catalogues, the Whole Earth catalogue, even Reader's Digest, for God's sake. My unrealistic entrepreneurial hope would be that over time, Remorandum as a series could end up taking its place within that lofty company. And the most fun thing about that will be the engagement of the community of subscribers and readers in that journey. Although most of the chapter ideas for this one, and maybe the next one or two will be mine, I fully expect that by 3 or 4, the scales will have tipped in favour of the community of, and you know, that's what happened 30 years ago with the merchandise for the store, and that's what's going to happen here, I can guarantee it. Having said all of this, I'm not necessarily looking to create a new global boutique media brand, but rather to build a sustainable and by definition interesting art practice for myself. Any outcome is fine, actually. However, if the idea does capture the marketplace imagination and things do cut through and take off like they did with Remo, this time I'll be better prepared to wrestle that beast. Thank you, and stay curious.
Yeah.
And thank you everyone for your patience. It was too long, and stick around.